Hi everyone, I'm Mel Gabby, and if you're new to my channel, then you'll see that I've got videos on there that cover the oracle cards, travel, reflections, the occasional podcasts, and the new videos from my recent trip, which I'm calling Simple Days. I think it's Simple Days, which is part of Soulwork Studio. So I'm going to give a bit of an update, and then I want to talk a little bit about where I'm at, and why I'm doing it like this. So over the last few years, I've been traveling around in my camper van and meeting people along the way and really enjoying the experience and the freedom that comes with, working less and, not being tied to any corporate job or project or any outcomes. And a couple of years ago, I bought a camper van and I started documenting the camper van journeys through little videos, walk with me, where I walk through the town and I take some videos of the places that I go to and experience. And then I had a camera in my van and I would take pictures of the journey on the way to somewhere and put music to it so that it give you that sort of experience of being on the road. That's through the windscreen. And then on some of the trips when I went to Wales and Scotland, was having some experiences, learning something about the history, the people, the history of the people who live on the land, the workers, what's happened over time, and would dig into that. But as a result of looking at each area, I'd also look at the religion, the churches, the cathedral. So in Wales, I went to Cardiff and Carnarvon and Newport, several of the cities, and St David's and Fishguard and Tenby. I went to loads of different places in South Wales and also did a lot on the reflections because I went to the museums and found out about the workers, the Chartist movement, what it was like for the coal miners, where the biggest industry was, who sort of benefited from that, what happened to a lot of the coal miners who went over to America and dispersed in different parts of America that also needed mining. And that's also formed some writing. I started writing earlier this year for Substack around April. So I've got the architecture series on Substack that looks at the sort of social systems and the architecture that we're born into. So it goes into topics around the miners, what happened to them, the coal mining towns, the industry, and the rich people that benefited from that. And then I've got the travel series, and my van broke down on the last trip to Scotland. I went to Carlisle, Glasgow, the Isle of Bute, Dumfries, quite a few places on the way, and again did these reflective videos. So I haven't made a reflections video for a while because I really want to do things that I just feel drawn to do, rather than it becoming a sort of have to create, because I'm enjoying the process of creating. Excuse me for one moment while I ready to have a coffee soon. So I wanted to tell you about sort of how that's evolved, really. So lots of people land on my channel and they found all these different videos, but it's basically moving into these sort of 3 or 4 camps now, with the travel, the oracle work, the podcasts, and sometimes the reflections. So I earlier this year was invited to house sit for some people in Devon. And the first house sit was in Exeter, and I spent a lot of time looking around Exeter, the museum and the cathedral and the town and the River Exe, and cycling down there, and it was absolutely lovely. Then I spent some time in Glastonbury, and then I went to Teignmouth and did the same. And that's when I started writing about the conversations I was having. I had some really deep conversations with people that I meet. So that's become the People That I Meet series on Substack. And so I was recording the trip. So I've got some little videos there of Exmouth and Exeter and the Grace and Perry art demonstration that I went to see. And so all that is on the YouTube page. They're only little videos, but it just gives you a glimpse into what I'm going to see. And the same when I went to Teignmouth, and I met people, had conversations with people down the harbour, as we were sat watching the sunset, having a drink. And there's nothing nicer for me than having a drink at sunset, riding my bike around the town. I only got my bike out a couple of times. I've got an electric assist bike that I've had since I had the car accident in 2019 because it was just easier. I didn't have the muscle power initially to ride the bike, but it's really fun to ride. But the second trip, I could only ride it in the town because the house was right up a hill, which would have been probably fun going down it, although I need to get the brakes properly checked again. But going up it would have been incredibly hard work. So the couple of house sits reignited and inspired me to almost like move into a new phase of creativity, really. And I was kind of thinking, I kept on thinking, you know, I could just show people sometimes the basic, ordinary facets of my life because I thought I wasn't doing that much. When the camper van broke down in October, I was at home. I didn't have any transport, but it's okay. I live in the town, and I've got all the main shops near me within cycling or walking distance. I can go to the shops, go to the doctors, all of that. Where I'm at the moment, if you haven't got a car, it's a real problem. And so I spent the winter reorganizing a lot of my videos and repurposing and starting to repurpose some of the old blogs that I had on my website because I used to put a lot of information on that. And then when the opportunity to house sit come up, that's when I really got a inkling that I wanted to write and open up a Substack page. And I've also opened up a Patreon account, so you can join that for free. The links are going to be below, where I'm docking almost my writing and videos, all the latest ones anyway, of my trips, and certainly in 2026, because 2026 has felt different. And I was really struggling this year, 25 and 24. I had the camper van and I decided to set a trajectory pretty much for the whole year, or at least 9 months of the year, to say, okay, I want to go to these wellbeing events. I want to teach at these. I want to go to these festivals. I want to go and visit these places. And that's kind of how I approached 24 and 25 because I had the opportunity to have a lot more freedom. Had the camper van, could go, but I found, and I've done a few videos on this, I love being in the camper van, but it is quite a small space to get used to cooking and sleeping and eating in. And then I tended to just be more compelled in a way to drive more and visit more places. And you can get into that rut in a way of where you're constantly driving and driving and driving, and then you stop off somewhere. And I try and stop off for 2 or 3 days at a time, but because I'd done so much driving, I was going through this cycle of driving a lot, going exploring, then being exhausted and having to have a whole day of doing very little. So when the van broke down in October, I was also getting to a place of I'm not sure I'm going to continue traveling in that way anyway. I think I might have done the time period that I wanted to do and visited the 2 key places that came up last year to spend more time in was South Wales and then go to Scotland because that was going to find out more about where my mum was born, my gran on the Isle of Bute, and I've got some separate videos on that. More about my history, my uncle, he was alive until the end of 2022. And really dive a bit more into the ancestry and connect more with the land and some of the history of those parts of Scotland, because of course different parts of the UK have experienced different invasions at different times, and that feeds into the folklore, the history, the religion. And it felt really meaningful to do that, really important. And I've got clients and I can see them while I'm on the road. But in 2026, I didn't have any desire really to really plan anything. And partly because I was in this, you know, is the van, I'm going to be able to fix the van, I'm going to be able to use it. I kept on changing parts. It looked like it was fixed and then it worked and then it didn't. And I kept on going through this cycle. So by the time it got to February, March, I thought, I need to think a bit differently. So the house sits are wonderful because I get to stay for about 2.5, 3 weeks in each location. So that means I've got a central base and I just explore from that base. So I did a lot of that exploration and deeper diving, and that fueled my writing and what I was producing on Substack, the people I meet, conversations I have, the architecture series, then it became the Devon Diaries. I started writing about my experience of being in Devon. And then I finished in Devon and went back home. And then I had my Kent Wellbeing Festival coming up, and the van was working, and I was going to take a bit of a tour around Kent. And so it was the Kent Diaries. And then while I was at home, the Home Diaries. And I think what I've been mindful of is, because I've worked in mental health and well-being for years, I've seen the darkness and the light. So whether we're looking at that through the spiritual lens or the psychological lens, the tough side of life, as well as people who are doing really well and having a good time. So I don't like to present myself as perfect and I've got it all together. And I am quite a private person, but I've really enjoyed being able to do more of creative things. I didn't even anticipate that I was going to start writing again, let alone the Devon Diaries. And I've been writing other things as well behind the scenes. But I really enjoyed being able to travel because, I'm a woman in my 50s and the kids have grown up. And often, we get to that phase in our life where it's, who are we? What are we doing? What do we want to do with our career, with the next phase of our life? And that will be much more common often to people as they approach their 50s. So I wanted to show my YouTube sort of represents all the different things that I enjoy, that bring joy, and that I like sharing. And it all started about sharing aspects of that. But like I said, I didn't want to just give this Instagram polished version because it's not polished when you live in a van, Even for the rich kids who travel around the world, they've got plenty of money, have got a super van, you're still going to hit problems, the tyre breaks. While I was in Wales, I was quite tired and I was reversing at barely 0.1 miles an hour. And I went too far and hit the fence and knocked out the reverse lights. Then the bumper fell off because I was driving up this hill that you could stay on, but it wasn't flat. So it was, and it dragged the back bumper off. And I'm in Wales. I thought I'd write on my face then. Not knowing where I'd left the bumper and driving and thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to get pulled by the police. 200 miles away from where I live, traveling around. So things go wrong, and then another time I was in Freshwater West. It was the first time I went there. And it's when I started having problems with the van. I can't remember whether I left something plugged in. And I'm on this stretch of road that's next to the beach. And I think there was 1 or 2 vans and my battery was completely flat. So even getting the breakdown people out to, there's parts of Wales that's really remote, to just jumpstart your battery. So I got someone eventually, van life people usually, try and help you out. So I got jump started and managed to get the engine running. And, so there's all sorts of calamities that happen while you're doing that. And then you figure out, when you charge up your fridge, how long your fridge lasts in 25 degrees when you're at a festival and how quickly your butter and cheese melts, and how much supplies you need for the 2 or 3 days. So when I went to Kent, it'd be is it over 3 days? No, it's over 2 days. So you go park up, and there's so much more logistics in driving a van than driving a car, putting a case in, and staying at a hotel. So it's kind of part of the fun, but it's also part of the eventual fatigue. So I kind of got to that phase of the fatigue becoming more of a thing. So the house sits and being invited to go and stay in places was just a really good solution to me being able to take my camera, record, work with clients, and go off and explore and be near locations that are easy to get to. So this current trip is in Somerset, and I'm about 9 miles, 10 miles away from Minehead. And the location's lovely. You definitely need a car around here. But I wasn't quite sure whether this trip would have the same flavour around it, because the only thing that I knew was that the dates I was coming here and that I was coming, and that I had the transport sorted out, and I've got fairly good, although I've still got to reduce the amount of stuff that I bring with me because I've got the bike in the back of the car as well. But it was so serene when I got here, and the garden's so beautiful because they've got a conservatory with furniture in, and then furniture outside, and loads of flowers and plants, and I'm watering them, and looking after them. And they've got a greenhouse with veggie growing, tomatoes, big tomatoes, the little yellow tomatoes, cucumbers, courgettes, beans. So I've been tending to them, watering the plants. There's plant pots everywhere. I have to make sure I don't forget some of them. And it's just been so chilled to the point of, getting my diary out. Dear diary, Somerset Diaries. Not much happened today. So I thought, as part of having the Patreon platform, I do the Soul Work Studio, which is where I just film some of the ordinary stuff. Because what's really cute is they've got a bird feeder, and I don't know how many birds, 10 or 20 birds are constantly flying to the feeder because I'm topping it up every day with loads of seeds. They go through this whole container like that of seeds in one day. And so sitting there just watching the little birds flying to the bird feeder, and just enjoying that simplicity and the sunshine, and the flowers are flourishing, and just walking around a beautiful garden, and often, unless you go to Kew Gardens, which clearly is huge, it's really nice just to be in a space that's just really beautiful. It's just simple, not much to do, and just good to wind down in. And I was having a conversation with a client this week about how long it can take sometimes when you've come from any stressful circumstances. So I've talked on other videos about periods of stress and real busyness I've had at work, and when I took up yoga and stuff like that. But when you've actually been in a system, so I was working in a local authority for 16 years, and then I did another 6 years in other industries, where you hold a lot of responsibility. There's some of that is around safeguarding. It's a constant stress. But even when you reduce your days, so a lot of people get to sort of in their 50s, as some of my clients are as well, and they say, I don't know what to do. I need to keep working because I need to build up, the nest egg and have some money for when I retire. But I don't want to be in that position of retiring and get sick and not be able to enjoy life. Or do I just reduce the hours that I'm doing? And I said, some people take the leap and just, I've got the right finances, but they can cut corners, and they take the leap and stop working completely. But that's only for a certain amount of people that can do that, because it can be really daunting. Other people might do it like me, whereas I was working 5 days a week full time, then I went 4 days a week, and then I went 3 days a week. And then it increased again on my last project, but that was like having the last wind in a way when I look back. And I had a lot of creative expression I could use in that, so it was fun as well. But once you've come out of those environments, people often think that they either go, "Oh, I've got all this time and I don't have to do anything," and then fill it up straight away, or they say, "Oh, I've got all this time," but they don't know what to do with themselves, because the brain is so used to having 500 emails to be written or done every day, and unless you're running a project which has a beginning, middle, and end, everyday business in work means there's always work to do. So you've always got in the back of your mind something that needs attending to when you're going to sleep, when you're waking up. What they say is most people are preparing for Saturday on Thursday and preparing for Monday on Saturday. That we're rarely in the present. And so it takes a while for our brain to slow down and forget that we don't have to go in to work every day. I mean, I think I was about 2 years into not working full time when I started notice that I wasn't waking up on a Monday morning going, "Oh my God, I'm going into that job today." And then I'd remembered, "Oh no, I'm not working there anymore." And that was a good 18 months. So the brain has to release. We can easily, let go of the attachment with that, depending on what that meant to us. But the nervous system and the body is still in that place. So we've got this. We want a really as some of my clients say, I want this really simple life where I'm not doing that much, where I can just be. There's no restriction to time. I can go where I want and do what I want. And yes, that can be a real draw, and it can be a real novelty to start with. But in other ways, sometimes we have to start our side hustle or our hobbies in the meantime while we're planning on some kind of exit, because the brain is constantly used to being used, and you want to be intentional about what it is you want to focus on as you move forward, whether that is to create more income or to have more fun or spend more time with people. Now, when you get into your 50s, you might find that a lot of your friends are also retiring as well, or they're going part time. And so their time might free up so you can spend more time with them as well. Or you might find that you're the only one doing it. And so you've got to think about, okay, who are the new people that I need to hang around with? So that kind of partly all of that thought process I was kind of aware of from around 2016, which is over a decade now. But at the time, I was only really thinking about how can I reduce the amount of time I'm in work so I can have more time to go and explore, as well as more time to get up, clean the house, do the shopping, and all the other stuff that needs to get done. And then slowly, I reduce that. But within that, you're reducing your money, so you've got to kind of start thinking differently about your subscriptions and everything that you pay towards, as well as how you're going to use that spare time. So that's how I approach it, because that's kind of works for my personality, and we're all different. So my 2026 and the way that I'm approaching YouTube and what I'm posting on there, the travel videos, are still the things that I enjoy, that I like sharing, and I'm trying to get better at them. I'd really like. I've got a different camera I'd like to have, so I can take. There's a guy, travel podcaster, not podcaster, a travel. What's he called? Like a reflective observer, where he goes. I watched him this week. I watched him go to Belfast, Liverpool, Manchester. Did he go? Yeah, Manchester, Benidorm, Isle of Wight. His Isle of Wight one was really good. Phil Carr, and he does really good videos, but he talks a lot in his videos, and he's really funny. I don't know if he was a comedian at some stage, but the quality of his videos are great, and so I'm sort of aspiring to do better quality videos. The ones that I've done this week, I found a different video editing tools. Hopefully, they've improved. So I'm releasing those videos for this trip. The Somerset Diaries are what I'm writing that go on Substack. And I'm doing the walk with me where I just show the area. So I recently went to Minehead. I took some pictures of Minehead Harbour and down near where Butlins is, and then the centre of town. And Minehead's actually quite pretty. And then I went to Blue Anchor Beach, and I've done a video of just the waves and the sea and not much else on it. Sometimes it's nice to see those. And I went to Watchet, which is a really lovely little village, and it's a real community. They've got a lot of little cafes and pubs, and near the harbour, they've got some old containers that have been turned. They've been taken over. I think it's 5 women. The lady was telling me, and there's 3 containers. And if you have a look, I don't know if I posted it yet. There's a video, what looks like cubes on the top of buildings, and it's shipping containers, and they've turned it into artist studios. So in the daytime, you've got a different artist in residence. Then they have different themes throughout the year. So they do stuff with kids. They're very pro youth services. And then on a Friday night, so I went on Friday night, and they had music, they had a DJ, they've got a bar, they had a t-shirt printing evening where you could get t-shirts done. And I was chatting to a lady that settled in the area, and she was telling me about all the different things that go on in the community. So there's a lot of tourists because there's about 5 caravan sites around. There's a lot of farmland that's just been turned into caravan and camping sites. So if you like van life, you've got a caravan, a van, or you want to camp, go down to Blue Anchor. It's a lovely stretch of water. It's very quiet, and actually you don't have to pay for parking on that road, or you can turn up because they all had space, and it's August. And the same in Watchet. There's a few around there, and Watchet's got, I think I found at least 5 pubs, and then it's got the bars that play music that is next to that. I can't remember what it's called actually, but it'll be on my video. So I'm taking the little videos of Watchet. I took the video of Minehead, of the harbour. Video. I went to Taunton. Took a video of Taunton. I went to Wells. They're calling it a city, but it's hard to use the word city. It's really small. It's smaller than Windsor, but it's beautiful. It's an absolute, I want to go back, absolutely beautiful place. And the history is really fascinating. So they've got a cathedral. It's absolutely amazing. And I did the oral, you put the headphones on, and there's a tour guide that's telling you. It's really cleverly done, actually. I followed it. So if I can follow it, I think anyone can follow it. And I love the cathedral. So most cities, I always try and go to the cathedral. And Phil Carr went to the cathedral in Liverpool that is relatively new, but really astonishing architecture inside. And the architecture in Wells, I think it dates back, I can't remember now, it's definitely around the time of 1064. I think the original, most of them were monasteries, like the Abbey at Glastonbury. And then a lot of the monasteries were knocked down, and then cathedrals were built, and the cathedrals been redone a few times because they've had various people throughout history that have been trying to smash them down. So they do this whole tour on the windows, how they were put together, the scenes in there, the stories that are depicted, and how they use imagery, because a lot of people couldn't read, so they use the imagery in the churches to convey the message and the stories, and how the church was. It's got an east, west, north, and south wing in the whole cathedral, but it's sat in most beautiful grounds. And I got my bike out of the car and had a ride around Wells, and it's got the bishop's gardens as well, which are also absolutely beautiful. But the vibe is great, and they've got fields outside the cathedral, and they had a Sikh dancing day. So they had Sikhs there with the tablas playing, and everyone dancing to Sikh music in the outside, and on the inside, I was doing this tour. So I filmed the cathedral, and I might do a bit of a narrative with it because what was great is at the top of the pillars of the cathedral, they've got all these shapes. But what I found is, and I never used to be into this years ago, so it might just be I've hit the same DNA that my mum's got, because she was into churches and cathedrals, probably a similar age actually. And you look at them and they don't really mean anything. But and then somebody says, "Can you see that the person who carved out of the stonemason, they were actually depicting in those stone carvings events that were actually happening in the area." And one of the carvings was a young lad with a basket. I don't know if it was cherries or something, and he's clearly nicked it, and he's been caught. And he's got this guy who's holding this stick, who's waving it over this kid in this depiction at the top of this, um, uh, you know, panel that's holding up the sort of central architecture of the whole cathedral. Then it talks about how they wanted higher roofs and how they've had to make some adaptations, and they've got the oldest piece of furniture in there that stores all the robes that the bishops wear, and then their connection with Canterbury and I think St David's and also Exeter. So there's a lot of history connected with the Romans, with Bath, Exeter, and Wells. But Wells was surprisingly quite mythological. So it had, and you'll see the pictures where when you walk in, I can't describe it, you can only see it sort of in the pictures, or if you go, this blow up dragon that was on the roof of the whole cathedral, huge. It went through the whole nave part, which is like the centre of the ship, at the top of the ceiling. And then they had like these panels with dragons in. And so there's a whole mythology connected to that cathedral, and certainly to Wells, the area, and Glastonbury, and all the folklore and Celtic spirituality before, I think, Church of England Catholicism came in. So absolutely beautiful experience. So I've taken the videos of those days, and they're just the days that I enjoy. I enjoy diving into the history. Every person that shows you around the cathedral, they had a lot of people doing free talks. They all bring a different aspect. So I want to go back to the cathedral, because you buy the ticket, it gives you access for a year for free once you've got the first ticket. And every person who does the tour will bring out different elements. There's so much thought that's gone into the floor, the carvings. I looked at the floor and I could just see these squares, but actually they were connected with 4 archangels and the symbolism around that. And then they had all the angels and the archetypes within the stained glass windows, why the pillars were built the way they were, and why they did it in Gothic style. And they've got a library there with loads of mystical and spiritual literature. I didn't have a chance to go in there. I spent most of the time just wandering around the other bits of it. So the videos have captured those days out. I was calling them Walk With Me, and now it's just simple days at the cathedral. I took another video because I had a market. They have a market most Saturdays, and it's really lovely. And it spans the whole street and the grass on the outside, because it's a huge space. And then they've got loads of little quirky shops, and you can walk right to the end and around the area. And they've got really beautiful little cottages and that, and you'll see those on the pictures that I took, because I did one video that is a collection of photos turned into a video, and another video where I'm filming, because I actually need, because I'm on my bike, I haven't learned to balance my phone and ride the bike at the same time without it wobbling. So I need one of those. I think Phil Carr has it, where it magnetically just clips on to your shirt, and you can get whatever dimension you want to film. And also they're really good quality. So that's the aim, is to do more of that. So that's the Oracle cards, that's the travel. And then the simple days are the videos where what have I done was just really showing the beautiful gardens and just the pleasure and the joy and the simplicity of that. and filming the birds, having David Attenborough moments, and then going into the greenhouse, and all the tomatoes have been turning from green to red. So I've picked loads of the big and small tomatoes and made a pasta base sauce, just a really simple dish, and it's just been really lovely to just create some simple dishes out of something you've picked. So it really got me thinking about, preparing for next spring, because clearly if you have a garden, you grow flowers, you work with the seasons. And that's just been so lovely. But I've also been given a lot of veg to the neighbour. So the houses are on what would have been old farmland. This reminds me of Emmerdale Farm, actually, this place, because it's like a big farmhouse. And in Emmerdale Farm, we had a huge kitchen. I think there was 5 sons and daughter, and the mum, who was the matriarch of the family, and then the farmer husband. And they used to sit round this huge table, and this kitchen reminds me of it because it's really a similar shape. I don't think you ever saw any other parts of the farmhouse in that show. And next door, there's a farm, and he's got a tractor and he's got sheep. And a couple of times of the day, I've now noticed, first thing in the morning, I hear, "Moo." And then about 6 o'clock at night, so I don't know if it's connected to when the sun starts going down, he herds the sheep back into the field. And so that's the farmer there. And then there's a lady, she's 75, and she lives in the other house nearby. I think there's another one further down the road, and they've got cows across the way. And so some of the courgettes have gone huge, and there's some marrows there. So I gave her, I could have made a ratatouille, I'm not too keen on it. So I gave her this big, what's turned into a marrow. I think it was about that big, actually. The other day, it's huge. I said, will you eat all this? Yeah, she's a vegetarian, so she makes lots of food out of all the veggies. So she was very happy. So it's lovely, and I thought that's really nice, isn't it? If you all grow some food and you can share. And they have masses of raspberries and tomatoes, courgettes, beans. I don't really eat the beans. I haven't found a dish yet that makes them taste nice or nicer. So that's the simple days. So if you've watched this video and you like the travel, you like the simple days, if you want more of the sort of soul studio stuff, and putting more of that on Patreon as I move forward, I've no idea what's coming next after this trip. I might be back home and doing the home diary. So all my writing's on Substack, but a lot of it is also on Patreon. So you can go onto Patreon, you can join the first tier for free. If you want some more Oracle cards, it's 1 card a day, 1 card, 1 message. And I will be doing some more lives where I'll show you how to use some of the other decks. I'm on my way on Thursday. I think I'm going to Glastonbury, and I'm going to look at maybe another deck. So I think for this evening, that's probably it. I was going to talk about the podcasts and some of the stuff around personal development, because I've got a sort of personal and professional message I want to share about that. But I will do that maybe tomorrow when I go live. I might pull up some of the actual podcasts that I've listened to, because there seems to be a trend at the moment to call people out and call out what they do, and I don't know why that is and what's fueling some of that. And of course, there's always light and dark, there's always contrast, and there's always people that we're drawn to and others that we think are talking utter nonsense. But I hope that this is, this is me sharing very simple facets of the work that I'm doing and what I'm uploading to YouTube, Patreon, and Substack. And hopefully someone enjoys some of what I do. And leave me a note, leave me a comment. I'll be putting timestamps on these videos probably tomorrow, so you can tune into the different facets of what I talk about, which is why I try to keep them in segments. But I'm going to go off, make a drink. I've got some. Oh, I'll show you. This is the big bowl, and this is a small portion. Well, I won't be eating that tonight, but I'll be having some of it. This is a small portion of what was collected over the last month in berries, and I like that with Greek yogurt and honey, and it's just so joyous. And earlier we were talking about, was it these ones? No, I think I've moved the cards. The simple joys and peak experiences, and that's why I wanted to highlight the simple days and the Soulwork Studio, because not everything is about gathering about and exciting revelations and huge things. Some of what I do, or a lot of what I do, is doing nothing and sitting and staring at the clouds and enjoying picking the tomatoes and watering the plants and feeding the birds. But after 30 years of consistently being involved in work and working full time, I'm still getting used to these very simple joys and experiences of just not even winding down now, just being in a different state. And it's quite hard to express, but if you're already there, you'll know what I'm saying. And if you're still stressed, I want to tell you what's possible, because you might be still working 5 days a week, full on, thinking that in the future, maybe the possibility to travel, have more fun, and do the things that bring you more freedom and joy is on the agenda. Or you might be over here, like me, where you've dabbled and experimented with different things. And that's why I want to share this kind of contrast. So I've got some really nice videos that I took today that I'm going to upload, and they'll be released over the next week or so. So do like and subscribe. I really appreciate if you do that. If I had every subscriber watch one of my videos for an hour, I think I would meet the requirements for YouTube to monetize and start being able to, monetize me, I guess is the word I'm looking for. My brain's starting to shut down. And I'd like to try and do that this year and get the amount of hours that I need in order for YouTube to recognize me, because they're changing the goalposts next year. So if you're a subscriber and you've listened to this, then please, in the next month, watch 1 hour of one video. I think that's all it would take, because I think it's like 5,000 hours and so many million of shorts, and I don't really do. Oh, the light went on. Yeah, this. I think we've got a hedgehog or something. So yes, if you can do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. If you'd like to work with me and do a deep dive, I've got links on there at the moment on some of my videos, the Calendly link, but I am going to be changing platforms in a few weeks, so I will update that once that's done. Other than that, have a great day, have a great week. I will see you live soon. Thanks for listening.